I hope that tonight can be interactive with you guys. Feel free to be vocal. I'll try and ask some questions, keep you guys engaged. But tonight, my plan is just to give my own testimony working in the pro-life movement, my own little piece that I've done, empower you guys with an overview of apologetics, abortion apologetics. My goal really is just to take the entire, it's a very bold claim, to take the entire abortion debate, boil it down for you guys, and give you a framework so that if you ever talk to someone about abortion, you'll have a roadmap to know where you are in the conversation and where to take it. Okay? So that's my goal. And I'm studying philosophy at U of M, so you have to indulge me a little bit. The handouts are for you guys. If it benefits you, great. If it doesn't, just ignore it. It's something you can take home and remember. But it looks complicated. So my goal is to make it look not complicated by the end, okay? So just bear with me. And then I'll give you some ways to get involved, some things you can do, and then we'll have some practice as well. So before we really get going, I just want to add on to what Debbie said and motivate why we're talking about this tonight. So obviously we all know abortion is evil, but we need to remind ourselves how evil it is, right? And for someone like me who's been involved in the movement and has been in it for just a little bit at least, it's always important to recall why. Abortion is the worst moral evil ever. It's killing innocent babies, the most innocent humans that could possibly be, in the safest place that they should be anyway. And it's also the most widespread. I mean, more people are killed by abortion than anything else. And then finally, it's also the most widely accepted. I mean, pretty much, well, I guess polls would say it's about half the country, but the point is, a lot of people are okay with killing babies, and that's just, what world are we living in? This is insane. So this is everyone's issue. This is a woman's issue. This is a man's issue. This is about people, and this is about human beings, and we need to do something about it because we know that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. But last I checked, gates aren't coming after us. Gates stay over there. What do? We have to go invade the world. We need to go in and we need to show people Christ's love and His truth, and we need to go out and save people through the pro-life movement, but more importantly, through our faith and sharing our faith with others through this conversation. So that's just a little bit to motivate what we're doing. But who has done any sort of abortion apologetics before, just by a show of hands? Oh, interesting. Okay, I thought it'd be a little bit more. But that's okay. That you guys are going to learn a whole lot then. And it won't be complicated. But so who's, I guess relatedly, who's had a conversation with someone about abortion? Okay, I'm really impressed. I mean, for not having done any kind of a formal study, maybe being in a pro-life club and learning some stuff, that's amazing. I mean, I'm really impressed. I definitely haven't talked to someone about abortion until I got to college, so you guys are past me. So I just want to continue with some of my own background. Okay, so I went to FGR. Does anyone go to FGR? Oh, okay, good. So you guys know the place. So I've always been pro-life, cradle Catholic, always thought it was wrong, and I looked at the pro-life club at FGR, and not to disparage anyone from doing that at FGR, but I just really wasn't impressed by it. I didn't really feel like we were doing anything. My experience at least was you go, and you talk about how pro-life you are, and then you go to your next class, and the day goes on, and you just don't really do much. Maybe it's different now, but that was my experience. And I really felt like there was more that I could be doing, and so I just wasn't really involved at all in high school. So then I got into U of M, and I started studying, I'm a senior now, but I studied psychology and philosophy, and I knew there was a pro-life club on campus, so I joined. It was a great way to meet people, like-minded people. It's crazy that you need to find people who don't want to kill babies to find like-minded people, but it also suited just my interest in philosophy, because as you can see from the handout, I enjoy this kind of stuff. So I joined the Pro-Life Club. I was the vice president sophomore year and the president senior year. And I was really satisfied with the work we were doing, because we were doing outreaches where we would go out in some prominent place on campus and we'd talk to people about abortion. It was super awkward, but I got used to it. Someone walks by and you go, "Hi, what do you think about abortion?" I'm just on my way to class. But honestly, it was a really great experience. It got me out of my comfort zone a little bit, and you'll be surprised by the people you meet. I mean, some people were super nice about it, some people were not. I mean, you'll run into people, like Debbie said, I mean, abortion's really prominent today, and so you will meet people who have had an abortion. And you will talk to them about their experience, and like I was saying earlier, that's the moment to share Christ's love with them, because I can't do anything about their abortion. That's past and gone, but they can still find Christ's forgiveness, right? So that's huge for someone who has to confront that with their life. So anyway, doing the Pro-Life Club thing, and then I got married to my beautiful wife, Grace, and we had our baby, Zaylee. She's crying. There we go. Woo. Do I need a point?
I don't know, but Morgan is very willing to stand up there too and help.
That's okay. So anyway, you saw the picture. There we go.
Can we see the real baby?
Yeah.
She just woke up.
That
And then you all know Kate. Kate is Zaylee's godmother. But so anyway, I'm not president this year. There was an unspoken rule in the club that the president always had to be a woman. And we were it was a strategical thing we were trying to tailor to our audience, because we didn't think people would respect the club, but man, as a president. So the joke is that I had to go and have a baby to show my worth and speak to my audience. So. I spoiled it. I'm not supposed to see that. So let's move on. So that's just a little bit of my own background. So who knows the pro-life argument? I'm getting so tired at no one answering. It's not going.
Point it this way. Point it this maybe.
Yeah, just click the next one. There we go. I'm waiting for you all. It's on the sheet. It's on the sheet. Raise your hand if you know the pro-life argument. What's the first step of the pro-life argument?
It is morally wrong to intentionally end the life of an innocent human being.
That was really creepy, but great job. Yeah, can you hit the next one? I'll just do like some weird motion. So the next one is, as you know,
Abortion intentionally ends the life of an innocent human being.
okay, conclusion.
Abortion is morally wrong.
Okay, it's very simple. It's very simple. We don't kill innocent human beings. Simple. Abortion does that. Abortion's wrong, right? It's very, very simple. But it is a little bit technical. We say intentionally, because we're not talking about self-defense. I guess there wouldn't be innocent either. But I guess with intentional would be something like a miscarriage. Innocent, yeah, that would be like we're not talking about self-defense. So you might be able to kill a human being in self-defense or capital punishment, just war, whatever. So we're making sure that it's an innocent human being, so everyone can agree with this. And then we just say abortion does this, and so abortion's wrong. It's very, very simple. So if someone ever says to you, "Why are you pro-life?" you can rattle this off. This is the pro-life argument. Memorize this. It's super short. It's super easy, and I think it's what you believe. I mean, I think the idea is everyone would believe this. And so what I want to do tonight is show you how the pro-choice objections, the pro-choice arguments can be mapped onto this argument. And so you can say, what is this person saying to me right now? Like, what is their argument? And then how are they addressing this argument? And where do I go from there? And I'll make it very clear. There's only 3. I boiled it down for you. There's only 3 objections on the pro-choice view. There's only 3 of them. So you just have to say, what are they saying? Where is it on the argument? And how do I respond? Okay? That's the goal. I went too fast. Can you go back a slide? Back. Okay. Spoiled it again. But so the first, we're going to go over pro-choice objections based on which they're called premises someone might deny. So the first premise is it's intentionally wrong to kill an innocent human being. And someone might say, no, that's not true. There are some cases in which it's okay. And so the first case would be a circumstances argument. The next one. And you'll hear you'll hear these in popular media very often. You've got rape and incest, life of the mother. Sometimes it's poverty, lack of support. The woman doesn't have enough money, or broken institutions. They don't want to put their kid in foster care because of a broken institution. And what this argument is saying is, these are cases in which it's okay to kill a human being. That's what they're saying. It doesn't really sound like it, but that's what they are saying. And so you can point that out to them, and you can say, well, actually, we'll get there. You can get the next one. Oh, and also pregnant minors. So the next one is my body, my choice, is bodily autonomy arguments. So these arguments are saying the same thing. When someone's in my body, that's a situation in which it's okay to kill a human being. To you, that probably sounds crazy and bizarre, and that's good. You have good intuitions. Just a quick story. I was doing an outreach with Protect Life Michigan in Grand Rapids, and I had this conversation with a woman, and it was going okay, and I could tell she was kind of upset, or at least sad, and so she left, and then she came back, and it was bizarre because she came back in her undergarments, and she was holding a sign like that, and she was dancing around the intersection, saying, my body, my choice, my body, my choice. And what blows my mind is it was like freezing rain, and yet she was still doing this. So this is a very common argument. It would be funny if it weren't so sad. That was an experience I had. So the first way that someone can make a bodily rights argument is to make a sovereign zone argument. And that's just saying, whatever is in my body, I get to do anything I want with. My body is a sovereign zone. And then the next way that you can make this argument is the right to refuse. So you could say, I have the right to refuse someone using my body as a resource. That's not really how pregnancy works, but that's the argument. And there is some intuition behind this, right? We do want to say that we have a sovereign zone. I mean, maybe you want to think about vaccines, or you want to think about, I guess vaccines is just a good example. And then the right to refuse. I mean, you wouldn't want someone just to take your organs, right? So there is intuition behind it. It's not crazy, but when applied to killing people, it goes too far. We can go to the next one. So how do we respond to these arguments? A circumstances argument, you want to, I think it's funny, we call trot out a toddler. So what you say is okay, here's Jimmy, if you want to rope in your little sibling, you can do that. And you just say something like, if this 2-year-old was conceived and raped, do you think the mother would be able to kill them? No one would ever agree with that. The person you're talking to is going to say no, and that makes sense. And then you say, okay, well, what's the difference between this 2-year-old and the baby in the womb? And they'll say, oh, it's not a person, or because it's in my body, I have the right to kill them. And so what trotting out a toddler does is it moves the argument. It moves it away from the emotional appeal of circumstances. So you could say, oh, I don't have enough money to pay for this child. Okay, well, if they're 2-year-old, if you didn't have enough money to pay for the 2-year-old, could you just kill the 2-year-old? No, right? And so what does that bring about? It says, okay, well, what's your real issue with abortion? It's because it's not a person. So this is a really useful tool to move the argument. And then just another point, we don't deal with suffering by killing people. We deal with suffering by addressing the issue, but moving on. So then, with bodily rights, again, there is an intuition here, and the problem is that there's two rights in conflict. We have the right to bodily autonomy, which, as we said, is important. But then we also have the right to life, right? And when rights come into conflict, you have to respect other people's rights. And we would say that you can do the next one, that the right to life is more fundamental than bodily autonomy, and so it should win, right? If you don't have the right to life, what do you have? You can hit the next one. And then, so that would help you with either version of the bodily autonomy argument. But also, when you talk about right to refuse, so you can't use my body as a resource. That's just not, so what they're saying is I should be able to withhold my resources. I should be able to unplug. That's just not what an abortion is. An abortion is where you go in and you actively kill the person. You tear them limb from limb, you poison them, you suffocate them. That's not unplugging, that's not withholding resources, that's killing someone. So it's not really a right to refuse. Bodily autonomy does not give you that right. So let's move on to the next one. So the second premise is abortion kills an innocent, or abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being. And what the personhood argument, you can hit the next one, is saying is, well, it's not a person, so I'm not killing an innocent human being, right? Is this sort of kind of making sense, the pro-choice logic? I mean, there is logic behind it, but it's, we're talking about people here, I just don't understand the lack of care when handling this issue, but, so you can go ahead and hit a few more, keep going. So, yeah, back one. So, who's familiar with these kinds of, it's just a clump of cells, it's just, yeah, we come across them all the time. And what I want you to be able to do is say, okay, what kind of argument are they making? They're making a personhood argument. How should I respond to that? So do you see how I'm kind of mapping it for you? I hope it's helpful. It's not conscious, because if you're not conscious, you're not valuable. You haven't been born yet. It's very arbitrary kind of stuff. But because you don't have these things, because you don't have a heartbeat, because you're not breathing yet. The problem with these is they're saying you're valuable because of what you can do. You're valuable because you can, I don't know, make a nuclear reactor. I knew you could. But the point is, we don't value people based on what they can do. We value people because of what they are. They're human beings, and that's what makes you valuable. And I mean, that really speaks to the core of our faith, right? Christ came not because of anything we did, but just because he loves us, because we're his children, right? So we're not just making this up. This is grounded in common sense and our faith. So you can move on. Yes. So we can respond to the personhood argument by just showing them it's a person. And you can do this through biology and science. So the next one is biology. So human beings, just the science of embryology. So people say, it's just a clump of cells, it's just an embryo. Well, the science that actually studies embryos says that it's a human being. You can go to the next one. Oh, we went over that. Next one. So there's a great app called See Baby Grow. It looks like this. I recommend you all, yes, I don't know, maybe my sister would have problems with this graphic. But it's a great app. It's made by Education Resource Fund, headed by Greg Cunningham, who's huge in the pro-life movement. And what it does is it just reaches people on the pro-life issue just by educating them about abortion, or not, I'm sorry, about fetal development, fetal development and maternal health. So I actually did an outreach with Greg Cunningham when he was sort of testing these. And he just had a bunch of graphics out of fetal development showing what the baby looks like at 6 weeks, which you can hit the next one. So this is just, I'm not sure if this is I think this is like a computerized image, but if you go to the app, you can actually see a video where they took a camera and they put it into the womb, and you can see a video of a baby at 6 weeks. And so when people say, oh, it's just a clump of cells, you don't even know you're pregnant until about 6 weeks. Does that look like a clump of cells to you? Right? So this is a great app if you're talking to someone and you can just say, hey, look, let's actually look. See the humanity. So anyway, I was doing an outreach with Greg, and this girl came by and she goes, are you a woman? And Greg goes, yes. I identify as someone with a uterus. She didn't like that, so she walked away. But Greg's a great guy. Only met him a couple times, but I'm not like friends with Craig, so don't go tell people that. Whatever, maybe I don't. So you go to the next one. So SLED, so this is the philosophy side. So we say any difference that you can point out between that baby in the womb and me, or Jimmy, the 2-year-old, or your little sibling, is merely a difference in size, level of development, environment, degree of dependency. So size would be, it's just a clump of cells. Level of development, it doesn't have a heartbeat yet. It's not born yet. Its environment is in the mother versus outside, or a degree of dependency, or it's using the mother's resources or whatever. So the point here, it speaks to the nature versus function distinction, right? We don't value people because of how big they are. We don't value people because they have a beating heart. I mean, that's kind of tricky. I guess if you didn't have a beating heart, you might not be a person. But the point is, when people say it's not a person, they're saying it's not a person for a reason that doesn't make sense, right? For these 4 reasons. One of the 4. And so we want to show what science says, and we want to show philosophically that they're being inconsistent. Okay? So you can just memorize SLED. You can download this app. Great resources. Yeah, and like I said earlier, if you don't know, why kill it? I talk to a lot of people, and they're like, it may be a human, but it's not a person. And I don't know, maybe they're like U of M students, and they think they're super smart, and they're not. And they're like, it's not a person, though. And I go, okay, what's person then? Nobody knows. When did you become a person? Stop taking your classes. But the point is, you err on the side of caution. If you don't know what it is, don't kill it. Very simple. Let's see. Is there anything after that? Yeah, so you can leave this up. So if anyone wants to take a picture, this is just for people who are like really interested in apologetics. They like philosophy like me. If you want to take a picture, there's further reading. There's the app here. So I'll just leave that up for a second. Not everybody is that. You could go really far into this, but trust me, what I've given you is sufficient for any of the conversations you're going to be having. You're not talking to university professors or anything like that. If you are, let me know and I can help. But so does that make sense? So we have the pro-life argument. We have 3 objections that someone can give on the pro-choice side, and we show what they're doing, what they're objecting to, and how we can respond. So I really just hope to give you a roadmap so that you can feel like, yeah. And I gave you this sheet to take home, and if you can look at it, and I want you to feel really strong in having conversations with people, because the reality is that we live in a world that doesn't really agree with us, right? Christ has won the war. Well, we're still trying to bring people to our side, and there's a lot of resistance. And so it's important to have strong reasons to reach people. But ultimately, this is a worldview issue. This is an issue with how we live our lives, the emphasis on me, and just not having love for other people. And so, as Debbie mentioned, you want to build your life with someone who has these pro-life views. And since this is a culture issue, it ultimately goes down to the family. And if we have good families and we raise good kids, the culture will change. It might take some time, but I honestly believe that, which is why we have a baby. Yeah, we're putting in our numbers. But I'm totally serious. I mean, the other side is killing their children, right? But we need to change the culture. That's really what we need to do. I mean, babies are dying. People are dying. And it's not going to change unless we do anything about it, because no one else is doing anything about it, right? But I honestly think it starts with the family. And so when you get there and you're dating and getting married and engaged, I mean, make sure that you guys have your worldviews that are the same and you value the same things. That's just so important. That's why I fell in love with Grace, because we both went to SSA, both went to FGR, big families. We were on the same page about a lot of things. And that's how I knew so early on that we were called to get married. So you can go to the next one. So what's the oldest grade here? Is it like sophomore?
12th grade.
Oh, senior, okay. Yeah, so you guys are getting close to college, going to college. Really get involved in the clubs there. I honestly am so surprised by our club at U of M. We're few but strong, but I'm just surprised by the amount of Catholics, Protestants, the people who are pro-life, and they're not doing anything. I mean, it felt like a recollection from high school where, yeah, we're pro-life. They don't do anything about it. They just, not to discount prayer, of course, but there's a lot of other things you could do in addition to prayer. And I was always disappointed and really sad about the numbers we had at the club, because we were few but strong, but I just knew there were so many people who agreed with me, and they just didn't. It wasn't even. It was just, I don't know. I don't want to make any judgments, but to me it felt like laziness. It just felt like it's not important. And to me, it's just what could be. College is a very unique time. You have the freedom to do this, and you guys in your age at college, you're forming a new generation. That's when you're building the culture. You're building the worldview. You guys are going out and getting jobs, or like my wife, going home and having children. But the point is, you got to get involved to some degree. Otherwise, this isn't going to change. And this is, I mean, people are dying. We have to do something about this. Some of you may have done sidewalk counseling, praying at an abortion clinic, something like that. That's a great resource. Volunteering at pregnancy resource centers. I should say with Protect Life Michigan, they have internships over the summer. They have a weekend thing over the summer as well. I did that. It was really, really great. That's how I know a lot of the stuff that I've given you. So look into Protect Life Michigan. They're great. They're just in Michigan, and then you have Students for Life, and they're kind of nationally. The difference. I'm sure there are other groups as well, but so I really encourage you to get involved, and at the very least, know your faith, know the arguments, because you're gonna run into people who've had an abortion or are thinking about an abortion, who might go on to have an abortion, and you need to be able to talk to these people and share them Christ's love and share them the truth, because the worst thing you can do is let them go and them have an abortion. You could have at least said something, right? I'm not saying that I can say anything to someone to change their life, but what I can do is introduce them to Christ, bring them to Him, and He can do it for me, right? He's the one who's bringing about these changes. Because there's a lot of setback, there's a lot of opposition, and you can get discouraged, but we know that, at least I know whenever I do this kind of thing, that Christ is the one who's doing the work. Yeah, so I think that was everything I have. We can do some practice, but I just want to, maybe we can do like a Q&A about me or whatever later. But just like apologetics questions. Does anyone have any? Wow, can you all like sign a document that says Luke did this perfectly and I can like submit it on a resume? Yeah, thank you.
So I've heard this argument before, and it's like, what would you say to someone that, like, the woman would die if they kept the baby? Like, if they say that, and then, like, their argument kind of is like, you can recreate the human, but you can't, like, the baby, but you can't recreate the woman's life. Like, I've heard that a lot. What would you say to that kind of argument?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the second one. So, yeah, so maybe the woman's thinking, my life is going to be completely changed. I'm not ready to be a mother, right? I can always have kids later, but I'm not ready for motherhood. Guess what? You're already a mother, right? That's implicitly saying it's not a person. It's not a person. I'm not actually a mother yet. So that's what I would point out, assuming they're pregnant.
Yeah.
And no, you can't just have more kids. You have a kid. You have to deal with them now. And then to the life of the mother one, that's also, I would put that under circumstances. And so that's saying this is a circumstance in which killing someone's okay if the life of the mother is in danger. And that can get complicated with things like ectopic pregnancies, where the embryo implants in the woman's fallopian tube, not in the uterus. And so if they start to grow in the fallopian tube, that can cause it to burst, rupture, bleeding, internal bleeding. Very layman's non-medical explanation. And that can get complicated. There's something called the law of double effect, where you can remove the fallopian tube. And what that does is it says, we've removed the baby, and we're just gonna, it's sad, but it's the only thing we can do because it's the best technology we have, but we can let them die, which is sad. But it's not actively killing them.
Yeah.
That's the important distinction. And then the other thing with life of the mother is that I was just watching a video with Grace the other night. It takes longer to induce the woman so that the cervix is large enough to do an abortion. It takes like 72 hours. Than just to do a C-section and get the baby out alive. So for whatever reason, if the life of the mother is in danger, it's better just to get, the point is, we need to get the baby out to save the mother. That's the basic idea. My point is, do that through a C-section and save the baby instead of just killing it as a way to get it out. So it really depends on the circumstance, but those are just, I'll give you that for now. That's where I'd direct you to the further reading. Yeah, any other questions? I meant to ask, are there any arguments that you've come across, you go, man, I don't really know what to say to that, or just comments?
I've heard the argument where it's like someone will say, I believe abortion is like killing an innocent human being, and I believe that's wrong. But if abortion were illegal, like people would be doing illegal abortions, which would be unsafe and end up like killing more of the mothers. So I think abortion should be legal. What would you say to that?
Yeah. You guys know your stuff. These are great summaries. And I, trust me, have come across probably all of them in my time talking to people. But yeah, so I think this, I don't get the intuition behind this argument. But what it's ultimately doing is it's assuming, it's really saying it's not a person. They might say that, but they don't really think it's a person. Because if you think about it, what are they arguing? They're arguing, I should be able to kill my child through an abortion, because if abortion's illegal, I'm going to kill them anyway, and I might harm myself in doing it. Like, well, how about you just don't kill your child? And I'm sorry you're going to get harmed, but we're not going to help you do that. It's terrible, right? And there's some weird analogies you can make. I've heard one where, like, you know, it's kind of like trotting out a toddler, except your toddler's 10 years old and they're taller than you. Let's say the mother wanted to kill their child who was bigger than them. They might get hurt because the child's big, and the mother might get hurt in response. And so she's going to call the police and say, hey, can you help me put down my child? How does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you help me do that? So, but the main point that I want you to remember is, I don't really like the funky analogies, but the philosophers do. The main point is they might say that it's a person, but they really don't think it's a person. Because I think if you think about it, you'll realize that that's not true. Anything else?
Go ahead, Grace, you go first.
Oh, okay.
My question was, well, you talked a little bit about this, but like, what do you do when you come across like just like apathy? Like, how do you approach that? Where it's like it's not so much that someone's like has a a very like hateful argument about something that they just don't care.
So the person's hostile in this situation?
Like they're
or they're indifferent?
They're like indifferent.
Yeah. That is the hardest person to reach. The person who, like, apathy is a great word. I was having a conversation with this guy, and he said, and I was giving him arguments, and he didn't really have anything in response. I was like, so, don't you agree that you should be pro-life, that you should help? And he said, you know what? I'm a college student studying engineering. I don't really have time for that. I'm focusing on my career. I don't really care. I just don't have time for that. I'm a man. This is a woman's issue. He just didn't care. Those people are the hardest people to reach, because they have no motivation in the debate, in the movement. They have no personal interest, and I don't really have much advice. I mean, because you need to show that they're a person, and once you realize they're a person, it becomes obvious why you should do something. And those people might say, yeah, it's a person. And I guess I'd just say they might also implicitly be not really accepting that it's a person. Like, yeah, it's a person, but not really. But yeah, I honestly, you just don't give up. Keep trying. If you know the person, maybe keep reaching out. This guy was just a guy walking by on campus. But yeah, I don't have too much. Those people are just the hardest to reach. Because, I mean, you can go on and on talking about how terrible abortion is, but they just won't care.
I was going to share one quick example. Recently, Matt Fradd did an interview with a guy. Matt Fradd's a Catholic podcaster, interviewer. He can be really direct to the point, but he did it with a father who shared a story of having a 5-year-old son, and the 5-year-old son came to him and said, "Dad, what's abortion?" And at this point, the father thought he was pro-choice and was really on that track, and was, didn't think about one way or the other, but was like, yeah, I would definitely side with pro-choice. And the 5-year-old son said, "What's abortion?" And he realized as he started trying to explain to his 5-year-old what it was, there's appropriate ways to explain it or not, what got pressed on for him was, is this really a baby? And that's what the 5-year-old was trying to get his dad to say in a certain sense. Like, what do you mean? Like, just to say it was a clump of stuff. Like, it wasn't enough. He was like, why would you kill, like, he was very direct, and it totally changed the dad's perspective on it all, and the dad, anyway, the 5-year-old convinced him, taught out the toddler, he was a toddler, trotting out.
Try it out yourself.
Yeah, convinced him that, and now he's out there speaking, against abortion, and so I think this whole thing now, just scientifically, or biologically, I think for people to say, I don't really think we know that it is a human, and I think it's not wanting to admit that because you just want to live your life and do the things you want to do. And so I think it's a really powerful argument to be able to bring that this is a human life, and because I think it's, at this point, that's not even an issue anymore. Maybe it was 10 or 15 years ago. So.
Yeah, well, I'll say, from my experience and probably from what you guys know on social media, people will start with circumstance arguments, but they eventually move to the other ones. That's just kind of the first, people brush it off and they move on. And then I would say most people would go with the personhood argument. That's most of the time what people are saying. And even the bodily autonomy arguments are motivated by personhood. Because they're saying, yeah, of course my body, my choice. That makes sense, because it's not a person. The real philosophical bodily rights argument is saying, even though it's a person, I can still kill you. But I think Debbie makes a great point that most of the time it's the personhood argument that people are implicitly assuming that it's not a person, right? So always, like with your 2 questions, always just think to yourself, maybe they really don't think it's a person, right? But interestingly, the philosophers make bodily autonomy arguments because they know the science. They know it's a person. It's your college student at U of M who doesn't know their science, who thinks they've come up with this great meaning of human life, consciousness. But yeah, I think it's really interesting because the philosophers understand the science. They don't make those arguments. They make bodily autonomy arguments. So, are there any other questions? Okay, do we have time for practice? If not,
Probably not.
yeah,
But,
that's fine.
maybe just recommend something that they could do with a friend or on their own to practice.
Yeah, I'd say just go through each one of these on the sheet. Circumstances, bodily autonomy, personhood. One person can be pro-choice, one person can be pro-life, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, however you want to put it. And just pick one of those examples on the list and try it out. You guys have heard the conversations. If not, I don't know. You can find a friend who knows. But yeah, I think you guys should just practice it, look at the sheet, and partner up with a friend and have a go. But other than that, I would say get involved and in whatever small way you can, even if that's praying for the unborn. That's all you can do. That's more than enough. So.
Great. Well, thank you. I think they're going on the March for Life. All right, then that would be awesome. Great. Thank you again, Luke. That was really clear and really helpful. Take these sheets home. They're really